poured ourselves some eggnog, fired up the generators, and aimed 80,000 Christmas lights towards the sky. Because this, my friends, is Spaced Out Sunday. My name is Everett Thiemer, and we are happy to welcome you, along with Kingdom of Nye Radio and Revolution Radio, to tonight's broadcast. If you happen to miss any part of tonight's show, you can listen to our archives for free at youtube.com/spacedoutradio. Just do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including the SOR Newswire, where Captain Shirk helps keep us up to date on current and weird news, shopping in the SOR Vault for those hard-to-buy-for people on your Christmas list, and giving yourself the gift of joining the Space Travelers Club, where for $5 a month you can explore our forums, check out some exclusive content, and join our ongoing chat. And of course, tonight's show is brought to you by CHIVE Charities. Please head on over to Spaced Out Radio's official charity, chivecharities.org, as we work to make the world 10% better. Tonight, we bring in Austin Maynard of the Underground Paranormal Network. Austin is an investigator, researcher, and inventor of sorts, experimenting with how to improve and validate the equipment paranormal investigators have at their disposal, also while trying to give more credibility to the instrumental transcommunication field. He has also investigated extensively in the Midwest, finding unknown and historic locations and helping bring their history back to life. Austin, thanks so much for joining us on Spaced Out Sunday during this busy holiday season.
Hey, I appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me on.
It's really an honor to talk to you because you've kind of taken some of this equipment and you're always I don't want to say tinkering, but you always have some ideas to try and improve things and test some of the gear that people have available, don't you?
Yeah, I like to say that. I mean, for some reason I am able to I'll see a device, I'll see a concept, and then I always find a way that I can twist it and use it in another way. And it's worked for me, and there's so many possibilities that we can use these equipment for so many different things. And I just feel like most people are kind of missing the opportunities. And so I don't know, I love doing it.
Now, it's a bit unusual to get into the experimentation kind of aspect of this. I mean, most people kind of focus on grabbing some gear and going out and looking for a haunted location. How did you get involved first in the paranormal and then into the ideas of taking this equipment that we have and working on it and trying to make it better?
Well, the story of how I got into the paranormal is quite interesting, actually. 6 days after my 18th birthday, I suffered a sudden cardiac arrest. Lethal arrhythmia is what they called it. And I was unconscious. I think I was told I went several minutes without oxygen in my brain. And I suffered a brain injury, and, I have some brain damage, but the fact that I was in a coma for a few days, and it made me realize that there is something between life and death. There's that empty shell, in a sense. So it just made me have so many questions, and eventually I just got tired of thinking about it, and I just decided to go do it. But with regards to like the equipment, when I jumped into this, I really jumped into it. I jumped right in the middle of the ocean, man, because, I started to do a lot of research on, different locations first and foremost, like any investigator would, but then it led to building a network of contacts and making, making relationships with the right people. And those people, would teach me a lot of different things. And I always was afraid of going in one direction. I didn't want to have tunnel vision because, of course, with the paranormal field, we don't know anything that's going on. Nothing is legitimately scientifically factual. You know what I mean? So
Right.
it's all just guesswork, and there's so many possibilities that people are eliminating just because they believe this or that. And in a sense, it's all faith-based. So we need to explore all the different ideas and all the different possibilities. And, when I was doing the research on equipment initially, I was just so, I don't know, I wasn't satisfied. I would buy these different things, and it just wasn't enough. I don't know why. It's like I just felt like there were limitations because I wanted this piece of equipment to do this. And I don't have any knowledge of how to build things. I don't know how to do all the circuitry, the coding. I'm not good at any of that. However, I started really working in the field, like with the experimentation. I started working with Jay Prather, IDC Devices. He was really the first like builder that I really, really got involved with. And then it expanded out to KD Stafford, and I just, it just grew from there.
Before we get too deep into the builds and the equipment, you didn't then really have any experiences as a child or anything like that? You were kind of just not really interested in the paranormal until you had your life-threatening event?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily say that. I wasn't really interested in like the afterlife, ghosts, spirits kind of thing. I mean, I've always, since I can even remember, like I would go to the library and check out books about, the Loch Ness Monster and aliens and Bigfoot. I mean, aliens were something I loved back in the day, but they terrified me. Like, like I was, as a kid, I was always interested in it. And then, of course, I watched the movie Signs when it came out, and that was like the worst thing I could have done as an 8-year-old or a 10-year-old, so, but I didn't, the ghosts and the spirit side of it didn't even come until after, after my accident.
Okay, after your accident or during, well, shortly after your accident, you said you were in a coma, and this kind of changed your perception or your ideas on the paranormal and spirituality, life after death, that kind of thing. What did you have any experiences? And I don't mean this to sound like I'm prying or like a weird question, but while you were in this state, did you have any weird experiences, or do you have any memories of that, or did you just come out of it and think, oh, there's more, and I want to investigate it?
Well, when I was in a coma for 3 days, and I was able to, apparently, my family was all around, and they were trying to, get me to respond, move my toes, stuff like that, because apparently I was, the doctors told my parents that I'd be in a vegetative state for the rest of my life, that, they were considering, or like the doctors brought in the papers to, remove my organs, donate them, stuff like that. But then I started coming around, but the whole time that I was out, like it literally, I just woke up from like a deep sleep is what it felt like. I don't remember anything while I was out for 3 days. And that's like what is driving me in a sense, because obviously my body was there, but where was I? I wasn't, they say people in comas can hear and react to the people around them, right? So, why didn't I experience any of that? I'm assuming a lot of it had to do with the brain injury, but again, I was still just a shell. Where was my mind? Where was me? So, ever since, it didn't start immediately, but, it got me really interested in it, and I started watching, the different TV shows like everybody does, and it made me finally decide to go out and do it. And then I just, kind of went from there.
When you say go out and do it, did you start investigating right away, or did you have an urge to look at the equipment more first? Was it a get out in the field or kind of play with what's out there kind of situation?
Well, I'll be honest. My first ever paranormal investigation or ghost hunt was over at Bobby Mackey's in Wilder, Kentucky. With it's funny. It was actually the Nick Groff tour. It was one of the first ones he did, and I can't remember when that was. Like 2014, 2015, and I actually got pushed from behind when my back was up against a wall down in the basement, and like I felt two hands physically force me forward with a lot of force, and you know, that was when I realized, like, okay, now I need to find out more. And then I started to really dive into the equipment and dive into the locations. And I ended up like joining some local team near Cincinnati, because that's where we were living at the time. And I just, you know, when I started to get into it, I realized there was a lot more than what this team was looking to do, or what this team had in mind, I guess. I was doing, I just had bigger things in mind. Because I just felt like we weren't doing anything. So I went and started my own team with my partner, Mike Ring, and we just kind of took off from there. And one of the first things we did as a group, we actually gained full-time access to this location called the Higginsport School, just right on the Ohio-Kentucky border. And we were the team that actually gave people access to this place for the first time in years. And it's, I mean, we ended up having like Nick Groff and Katrina come out for season 3 of Paranormal Lockdown. And that really kind of jump-started the whole thing. But I didn't really get into the ghost box side of it until a couple of years ago, because I started really getting into using the different equipment, researching it. And I'm just the kind of person, I'm never satisfied. Like, I am never satisfied with any piece of equipment. It doesn't matter if it's a $10,000 device built by this guy and this guy. I don't care. There's something it won't do that I would want it to do.
Right.
That's always the mindset.
Okay. We got a couple different directions we can go down here, because I know we're going to spend quite a bit of time talking about some of the ITC devices and the experiments that you've kind of come up with and the things that you've done. In fact, when you and I were messaging back and forth, was it yesterday, I believe? Yeah, it was yesterday. You said that probably during the show that you might even come up with an experiment that you might work on after the show, because you're always kind of thinking about these things. But before we get into that, you know, one of the things that really interests me about the paranormal field or ghost hunting or any of that is the history of the locations. And one of the things that you seem to do and seem to be really good at, and I want to find out how you do this, is you go out and you find sort of some forgotten locations or locations that have been overlooked, and you investigate those. How do you do that?
Well, I do a little more than investigate them. I actually, like the whole thing with the Underground Paranormal Network is, I've created a network of historic properties, quote unquote, underground properties. And you know, they're like amazing buildings, 100+ years old with a lot of history. And, there's a local person that bought it to save it from the wrecking ball. And now they're just using it as storage. It's just sitting there collecting dust and dirt, the paint chipping on, you know, it's just falling apart. And so I noticed that there was a huge, huge problem amongst everywhere, like in the entire world. There's a problem that, you know, people are always, especially in the paranormal field, you know, people are so focused on where thousands of people died or in different things like that. But it's like, you know, these buildings have history too. And the way I see things is that In the spiritual world, when we are opening and closing that door to communication, I would assume that it's somewhat of a beacon, for these spirits in the darkness. I mean, I kind of think of it like the movie Insidious, like when they go into the other, or wherever that is, they, just dark. And when we open that door, it's like a beacon of light. And I feel like the more you open and close the door in a location, it seems to become sort of a refuge center for spirits in the town, in the area. And that, in my mind, allows investigators, or it allows us to bring a lot of attention to these locations, because otherwise these owners wouldn't have had it. And then the attention that I try to bring, I mean, of course I investigate these locations. We end up getting a lot of activity, especially in a couple of them. But, these locations, the history exposes itself. It always does, whether it's from the papers or from, investigators. But, the way I can help these locations, I actually make it a mission to raise money, raise awareness. I can provide volunteers and, for cleanup days. And me and my crew, and we get a bunch of volunteers, we'll go out to these locations and spend a whole Saturday sweeping and, just doing all kinds of, cleanup work inside these locations when there hasn't been cleanup done in decades, and because I do this, it allows us, I handle all like the scheduling and the coordinating of pretty much everything paranormal for these locations. Currently I'm at 4 announced already and have been in operation, but then I got another one up in northern Michigan that I just secured recently, and going to another place nearby, about an hour away. And what I can do, I have a lot of really good connections in the field. I'm friends with, I'm great friends, with some of the biggest names. I'm great friends with the Tennessee Wraith Chaser guys. I'm great friends with K.D. Stafford and Jay Prather and the Ghost Brothers. And, and I just feel like, who am I really? Like, I'm not anybody special. So why don't I use this to help preserve these locations? And, that's why I hold celebrity events, is because it's a lot of attention at once. And once we can put the place on the map, we build it from there. And eventually the right person will see this place. Eventually, that could be an investigator, an investor, somebody wanting to make a larger donation, things like that. And at the very least, I don't feel like right now I'm able to help a whole lot, but I gave the owners of the 4 locations that I run, I gave them free labor, a lot of free labor. I tell you, one of these places we went in was ended up being an old apartment building, and it was just left a mess. And so there were some bad smells in there, and we went in there with, masks on and a dumpster, and we just dumped everything out. And man, that took several days actually. But, the whole thing is about saving these locations, because if these locations disappear, then we're going to run out of locations to do our research in, right? So it only makes sense. And plus, I see so many people on social medias, hashtag save history, hashtag preserve history, or whatever. It's like, how many of you are willing to come out here and do this? Because that's what I'm trying to do.
Well,
I want to start a movement.
That's certainly something different from many of the paranormal groups out there. And you mentioned that these are underground properties, and we don't mean like physically underground, but
right.
Are these places that people can go to investigate? Are they places that you are going to, at some point in time, have some events to raise money for them and allow people to investigate, or how do people get the opportunities to investigate some of these hidden places?
Well, that's actually part of everything I do. You know, I handle all the paranormal related events, tours. Like every location we go to after we do the cleanup, and we make sure that it's safe for tours. And I mean, we have liability insurance to cover everything. But, you know, once we do all that, we open it up for investigators and private tours. And I always host some kind of celebrity event there, just to get it on the map first and foremost. And then, you know, I have a team that helps to be caretakers of these locations, you know, and now that we're expanding up to northern Michigan, I have to find a local teams, or actually 2 local teams up there that can handle the caretaking duties, be the hosts when there are private teams booking the place, you know, just because I would feel more comfortable and the owners feel more comfortable if we have one of our staff on site at all times, just for, you know, whatever. And so that in itself right there gives local teams an opportunity to be part of something bigger. Because let's face it, how many paranormal teams would love to have full-time access to a haunted location, 1, and 2, be able to work with people like Katie Stafford and Doogie, and, you know, and I mean, I know that doesn't mean much to some, but to a lot of people in this field, it would mean everything, you know?
Right. And there can be some fun at celebrity events. I think one of the aspects that impressed me most about what you're doing is bringing out some locations that haven't been heard of before. I mean, I think we're all tired of hearing about Waverly Hills.
Oh, absolutely. Or Ohio State or Performance over. Yeah, no.
Yeah, you know, the Eastern State or the Pennsylvania prison. I mean, there seems to be a cycle of maybe 50 to 100 locations that everybody just keeps talking about, and we're missing out on so many locations that one day are going to be gone for good, and we'll never get them back. So, Austin, I'm going to get you to hold on for 1 second. We're going to step out for a break, and when we come back, I want to talk to you a little bit about the importance of history in the paranormal, both in locations and how some people treat it. So we are going to be right back after this break.
Looking for the stories of the strange and weird that you will find hard to find anywhere else? Check out the SOR Newswire on our website. Our writers, led by Captain Shirk, are scouring the world for the oddest and most bizarre stories we can find. Everything from weird crime to suspenseful and paranormal. We're working hard for you to bring you the most intriguing news of your day. Check out the SOR Newswire at spacedoutradio.com today.
Hey everybody, the SOR Space Travelers is open. For just $5 a month, you can hang out with Dave and our crew privately in our members-only section. With your signing, you'll receive newsletters on what's going on with Spaced Out Radio. You'll have direct contact with the host during the show in our chat, live streaming videos, and a great forum for your posts and more. Become a space traveler now at spacedoutradio.com.
Hey Spaced Out Radio fans, it's John Resig, founder of the CHIVE and CHIVE Charities. We live in a world of mystery and uncertainty, which you guys know better than anyone. Sometimes you just need to be brought back down to earth for a while. One of the best ways to stay grounded is to help out with your fellow earthlings, and there's no more rewarding way to do that than to give through CHIVE Charities. Unlike many organizations, we don't necessarily aim to save the world, cure disease, or change the course of history. Our goal is to make the life of veterans, first responders, and those with rare medical conditions 10% happier. We do this by donating one grant item, ranging from vans to therapy programs to prosthetic limbs, to those who need it most. CHIVE Charities is nothing without our donors, an amazing group of underdogs helping underdogs. To contribute to Spaced Out Radio's official charity, head over to chivecharities.org and become a donor today.
Are you addicted to the woo? Good. Me too. This is Dave Scott, and you can woo it up with me every Monday through Friday, starting at 9:06 Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, for 3 hours of great entertainment in the subjects you love. UFOs, ghosts, cryptids, intuition. Yes, we hit it all 5 days a week. Look for us at spacedoutradio.com, where together, my friends, we own the night.
You wanted new SOR gear, and now you can have it. The SOR Vault is fully stocked with t-shirts, hats, hoodies, mugs, and everything in between, with great logos for you to choose from. So head on over to spacedoutradio.com, click on the SOR Vault, and go shopping. Pricing is quite affordable, and you can look good representing your favorite show. So go to our website and pick up your new SOR wear at the SOR Vault today.
A timepiece is a reflection of who you are, and what better way to show off the real you than with an Escape watch? Escape is a lifestyle brand accessorizing your days and nights. Choose to escape and create the life of discovery that you deserve. Dream, play, unite with your own personalized Escape watch. Head to escapewatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
Move over, brother, and let me own Saturday night.
This is Rich Giordano, and I'm inviting you to tune on in to Spaced Out Saturdays starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, 12 a.m. Eastern, where I'm going to bust open the lids on everything paranormal. Why? Because we want answers, and I'm the guy who's going to deliver those answers to you. Join the chat rooms, and we'll see you this Saturday. Just be there. No, really.
From the heartlands of Canada to beards around the world, we know how to take care of you. Fill your follicles with the Mighty Moose Beard Oil. All our oils and balms are handmade and 100% natural ingredients because we care about your beard. And hey, use the promo code SOR2019 and get your Mighty Moose Beard Oil today. You can check us out on our website, mightymoosebeard.com.
We're adding to the entertainment online for Spaced Out Radio. I'm Amber Beckrud, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out Cryptid Tales, where I will take you on a journey into some of the strangest legends and lore from around the world, relaying the stories to you of the strange creatures and experiences that people have had throughout time. You can find Cryptid Tales at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio, and while you're there, don't forget to check out our free archives and leave a comment. See you there.
Heading to Vancouver and looking for some great nightlife? The Moose Vancouver is the place to be. Catch a game on one of the big screens or just come rock out to your favorite 80s and 90s hair bands. Great food starting at $6.95. The Moose Vancouver is open until 2 a.m. nightly. It's easy to find near the corner of Nelson and Granville. The Moose Vancouver is the official rocking bar of Spaced Out Radio. Looking for something new to push your limits? Look Beyond the Spectrum, a new docuseries featuring some of the best researchers in the world when it comes to everything from UFOs, government cover-ups, and strange humanoids. Truth seekers Stephen Bassett, Jeff Meldrum, Jack Casher, and Stanton Friedman, among others, all chip in to bring their knowledge to you. Beyond the Spectrum can be found on Amazon as well as Tubi TV. Tell us what you think on our Amazon page.
Welcome back to Spaced Out Sundays. I'm your host, Everett Thiemer. Thank you for spending your evening with us. Don't forget, if you've missed any part of the show, you can check out our archives for free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to some Bumblefoot, shopping in the SOR Vault, where one day it's secure enough. I may put a Gibson Les Paul in there. Dave says I've got him in a vault. What is it now? 92 feet under the ground. Well, they're not, but maybe something will pop up in the vault. And don't forget, you can also join the Space Travelers Club and so much more there. We are talking to Austin Maynard. And one of the things that we finished the last segment up on was the idea of the history of some of the locations that he's working with. And, we refer to these as underground locations, but it's not that they're like secret or anything like that. It's that they're unknown. And part of what's unknown is the history of these places. And that's, I think, why they're unknown. Nobody is investigating the history anymore. They're hearing a ghost story and deciding they want to go there. And Austin, I wanted to continue this with you because history is probably one of the most important yet most overlooked aspects of paranormal investigation.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. I mean, history is literally the basis for everything that we do. I mean, all these deaths, what is that? That's history. I mean, and people that, eliminate, to me, it's not just about deaths, man. I mean, there's so many things that could possibly go into this, but, the history, what if there was a guy that worked at a location for 40 years and retired and, that's all he knew in life. Where do you think he might go after death? And so, that kind of stuff gets overlooked. I mean, the people that spent their lives, that put everything into these buildings, that put everything into the companies. And, those people might be ones that would want to talk to you too. And people don't even think about that kind of stuff because, I mean, it's just, the TV shows and different things like that, I think is kind of giving people tunnel vision.
Well, we're going to get into the TV shows a little bit, but you and I were talking during the break about how, a paranormal group or even a paranormal TV show, they'll hear about some activity somewhere and the idea or the rumor that somebody died in this location. And they maybe don't investigate that part of the history very much, and they go in there and they begin to conduct these investigations. And, in my opinion, if somebody died in a location, there is a big difference between somebody being 80 years old and passing away in their sleep or passing away from old age compared to somebody who met some sort of tragic end. And oftentimes I've noticed they just talk about, this person died here, and they don't go into the full story.
Oh, absolutely. I think, I mean, it's hard to even say like how much even a tragic death would be part of a haunting. And we just assume all this, but, I think it would make sense logically that, if somebody was shot in the back of the head in a location, and I know that sounds graphic, but I mean, when you think about that, they wouldn't have known. In a sense, they wouldn't have seen it coming, and would they know that they were dead? I mean, that's one of the many questions, but, when you focus so much on that, that's when all the other stuff gets ignored. And in my mind, when you ignore something for so long, it's almost like it becomes dormant. So I like to try to go and interact with as many of the, as many as I can, if I can find anything there, because sometimes the ones that didn't die tragically there, that might still be around, they sometimes will give you more than what the ones that died tragically would. And you think about places like Waverly Hills, where there are thousands of people that died, but yet since they've been open for investigations, there's been thousands of people that have gone in asking, what's your name? How long were you in here? The same questions. And I would imagine that I'd be burnt out by that. So why do we continue to go to these locations? I mean, and I'll be honest with you, there are a lot of places that I feel like would be beaten with a stick just from all this. And I mean, I just don't think that spirits are robots either, and so we have to try to look into the underlying reasons, and some of those underlying reasons, well, actually, majority of them fall into the history, which, if people were to look into this a little deeper, they may find things that might give them a lot more answers than what they go in with, and so they just ask general questions, broad questions, and it's not really getting us anywhere in my mind.
Do you think if people knew the history of the locations better, they would be able to better investigate?
And that's a fine line, man, because you have two sides of it. I mean, there's two different sides of it, because I mean, you can go in there and I mean, sometimes knowing the history helps, but then on the other side of it, sometimes going in blind is better. And that's almost like a judgment call, you know what I mean? But I don't think one is better than the other. I just think two different aspects, and they both need to be involved, I think.
Well, one of the things that you mentioned earlier, and I think this is pretty common of most people or a lot of people today, is they got their introduction to the paranormal, maybe through an experience or two, but primarily through TV, media. I mean, there's been, for the past 15 years or so, a pretty good onslaught of TV available for the paranormal consumer. Oh, I like that phrase. I'm going to use that later. What do you think the TV shows out there are doing wrong about the history, and what could they do better?
Well, with the TV shows are hard. I mean, I see both sides of the spectrum there. On one hand, they are bringing massive attention to these historic properties, and then that gives the owners or the property managers a chance to reveal the truth. And I always encourage my locations, whatever historic documents, anything that you have, put it on display, frame it so that when people come, they see it. And, and that's really the biggest thing that I appreciate about TV shows. But on the other hand, yeah, I mean, it's causing a lot of people who, base everything they know off of these TV shows, to get the tunnel vision, like I said. And that's when you start removing all the other possibilities from your belief system or from your investigative styles, because, you believe that this is how it is, or you're assuming that this is how it is. And, the TV shows kind of don't really talk about that too much, don't just assume that this is what it is. But unfortunately, that's TV. That's how the networks want it. It's all about ratings. So it's got to be entertainment.
Well, if you watch the TV shows long enough, you'll notice that most of the investigators seem to make assumptions immediately. Yes. And those seem to spin their or guide their investigation. Once they make the assumption, they follow that without necessarily any validation of it. They just see something, have a thought, and that's the route they're going with their investigation.
Yeah, and that's just literally because of the network's narratives. The network, one thing I've found is that networks make all the calls. They make all the decisions. And it's unfortunate because, a lot of these investigators that end up making it on TV, or, having their own show, they end up having contract obligations, and they end up not being able to do anything they originally wanted to do because of how the network wanted to portray it, I guess. So it's tough because, yeah, I mean, it ruins a lot of people, and people think that it's a glamorous lifestyle, but it's not.
No, it's not at all. I want to ask you, what do you think, because you're involved in kind of making these places available for events and paranormal tourism, as we call it, there's nothing wrong with it. But what do you think about these places? First, we'll talk about the ones that install things to, as they often put it, accentuate the visitor's paranormal experience, where they're putting in some speakers maybe in the ceilings that kind of make some groans, or they're putting in details that I don't want to say are entirely fictitious, but they're manufactured.
Yeah. I mean, I have yet to experience one of those places. I personally do a lot of research, and I look at other people's experiences, and that's another thing people should start looking at too, is because you start looking at trends, you start seeing trends in reviews, and with the way that the internet is now, people can look up anything and everything they want to. So, I mean, your public perception is everything, and those people that, you know, do those kinds of things, that try to, you know, what do they call it? Fake evidence, I guess, is the easier way. You know, those people are, in my mind, are snakes, and they weed themselves out eventually. And those people that do that will get exposed, and it's a shame to see, though, because, you know, some of these properties, they don't need to do that. It's like, why are you doing it? You don't need to do it, because eventually, when you like I said earlier, when you keep opening and closing that doorway, the activity will increase. And I've noticed it at every location, and it's not something that it's just something that I've literally seen happen. I've seen a place go from, you know, here and there to every time you walk in, it's aggressive. And so I see the change in that.
Well, what about this trend? And I guess trend maybe isn't exactly the right word, but what I've noticed is there are many places that they will open up, and you know, within 6 months they have a ghost story of something that happened, you know, 100 years ago in their building. And if you look in the history books, it doesn't seem like there's, or look in the papers or anything like that, it doesn't seem like there's much of a history of it, or it hasn't been reported. But they open up a bar and grill, or they open up a bed and breakfast, and all of a sudden, you know, there's a ghost walking the hall by the bathroom, or there's a ghost that walks down the stairs. Do you think that some of these places are sort of manufacturing their history, or faking it, or what should they be doing things like that? Because the paranormal tourism, or the paranormal demographic, is a growing demographic for places like bars and grills and beds and breakfast, those places. So, you know, what do you think they should, or do they have any responsibility to stick to or research their own history?
Well, that's I mean, there's a fine line with that too, I guess, you know, because sometimes, you know, new owners come into properties, and, you know, there could be stories between the frequent customers of a bar or something, you know, people that have been there experienced. And, you know, there's a lot of places around the world that, you know, still don't really look too kindly on the paranormal. So, you know, a lot of times these buildings are, you know, those stories get put on the hush, you know, and you don't really find much about it. And I mean, that's the case with Bryan, which is where I live now. You know, there's a lot of people that really did not like to talk about certain things until I came around. But, you know, I found out there's some insane history that just needed to be exposed. But again, with everything, you got to take it with a grain of salt. And most people don't see that. They just take everything exactly how it's put out to them and then just go with it. You know, and that's where the problem lies in my mind.
You mentioned that investigating a location can kind of draw paranormal activity to the area. Do you have any examples of that? I mean, one of the things that we often talk about when we discuss ghosts and spirits is kind of how they're maybe locked into a particular location. Do you have any theories on that? Like, it seems like we can't on one hand say a ghost is, you know, stuck to a particular location, but then, well, these other ghosts are going to wander over or be drawn towards where these people are looking for them. How do you balance the two?
And that's another one of those many unanswered questions, about this field. But, I think personally, obviously, I don't think that a spirit is going to be confined by our physical walls. I think they have I would like to believe that they have the ability to go wherever they want. However, I do believe that maybe there are some spirits that, maybe don't want to go anywhere. Maybe they have reason to stay there. Maybe they always talk about, there's so many places down south, that talk about the lady in white that's waiting for her lover to come back. And so she stands on the balcony. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many of those stories, and maybe that could be the case. But, when getting back to, really, I think in the spiritual world, when I look at I think there's spirit activity everywhere. I think every town, every city, any place that people have ever lived, there's got to be something wandering around there. If we're thinking about in terms of spirit energy, I would just say it's safe to assume. And it's not just like drawing it to the area. I feel like they're already there, but when you go into a particular building, and when there's not many other when there's little to no other buildings where communication is trying to be happening, I see that it's almost like, how they say when you use a Ouija board, you open the door. Well, the same thing happens anytime, in my mind, anytime you ask a question directed towards them, you're opening the door. Because then it's like you're calling out to them. You are summoning them in a sense. And it's, it's hard to say that spirits are trapped. I think maybe they have a reason to stay. Maybe there's something that they have unfinished business, which is a lot of the theories, But I think, when we are opening that doorway and closing that door constantly enough in a location, it's kind of like if you build it, they will come. Well, if you are calling out to them, they will come. And if you are in a location, maybe the spirits in the surrounding area, like the town and other houses where they're just kind of not being heard or not being recognized or noticed, maybe they want to gather to this location where people are trying to talk to them so that they can tell their story in a sense,
That makes sense. And I think that we talked about people making assumptions earlier. Mm-hmm. I think every time somebody, and it's quite prevalent on the TV shows, every time somebody says that a spirit is stuck in a particular location, we're all just kind of going with that assumption. Maybe that spirit or that ghost just doesn't care what we think and doesn't want to go anywhere.
Oh, exactly. I think that's probably, I think about things logically, like if I was a spirit, how would I do this? Would I hang around where I was murdered? Would I hang around in the graveyard where there's a bunch of dead bodies? No, I'd probably go where I was happiest. I'd probably go visit everywhere I had the best memories or even the worst memories,
Yeah, that whole graveyard idea, I think that has just persisted because of the scare factor. The truth is, when my time comes, I have no desire to sit there under a tree next to my grave. I'm going back to a few different locations and going to, enjoy the times that I had there. I'm not going to sit there in an empty cemetery, and I think that most people would feel the same, but yet we have that image of people being, or that assumption of people being tied to where they're buried. And, the only way I can rationalize it, and maybe you can explain it better, is that it's simply the scare factor. It sounds good. It sounds scary. It makes the graveyard sound like a neat place to go and investigate, but it really has no basis.
And see that, and that's another factor that a lot of people don't consider too, the emotion factor of it, when you talk about fear, I have the theory that whatever energy you bring, they're going to feed off of that. If you go in being a jerk, then they're not going to respond. because they're like, why would this guy come into my house and talk to me like that? I'm not going to give him what he wants. But if you come in nice, that's the whole thing. But, oh man, I'm sorry. I lost my train of thought.
You know what? That's okay. You brought to mind a question about being a jerk. And right away, what popped into my head is that trend a while back of going into these places and provoking the spirits to respond. And, that seems to have, except for a couple of investigators in the public eye, that seems to have sort of faded away. But we got about 2 minutes before we have to go to break. Can you tell me a little bit about, the idea of provoking these spirits? And I mean, we all know what it is, but does it have any basis in history? Does it help the investigation? Do people get responses?
I don't think that provoking does anything. Like, I don't think you're going to get any more than what you would get. I just think it shuts them down in my mind, because why would any spirit want to talk to somebody who's being a jerk to them? First and foremost, you got to think of them like they're still people, because they were people, But I think provoking is not really necessary. I mean, there's being protective, there's being defensive against, things that seem to want to be harmful. But, when you're just going in provoking, is literally just, you're going in just trying to stir up stuff. And you don't need to do that. If you come in respectfully, they'll respond.
We got about a minute left. Do you think if people understood, or at least one or two people in an investigation team understood the history of a location better, maybe they would get some better responses, because they might appear to the spirits to be maybe better connected and better informed on the place or the location?
Yeah, I think that's where the respect starts, is when you look at the history and you actually understand what might have happened or what did happen. You have a different respect for the location, the spirits, the history, and it just changes. It changes a lot.
Yeah, I think that's. I agree with you, and I think that people could benefit a little bit more from maybe understanding their locations just a tiny bit, maybe a tiny bit more.
Yeah.
But Austin, with that, we are going to step out for our second break of the night, and we will be right back on Spaced Out Sunday.
John Resig here, founder of CHIVE Charities. And just like you, we have a penchant for the uncommon, the overlooked, and the off-the-cuff. CHIVE Charities operates a bit differently than most organizations. We listen to our recipients to find out exactly what they need, and then we give it to them. We provide people with rare medical conditions, veterans, and first responders with grant items that will make a direct impact on that person's life. We don't just forget about our recipients when the van or the wheelchair has been delivered, though. Our recipients are part of our CHIVE Charities family for life. By becoming a donor with us, you could be a part of that family too. And our listeners of Spaced Out Radio know that thinking differently can be a very good thing. To get to know some of our recipients and to support Spaced Out Radio's official charity, head over to chivecharities.org and start making a real difference today.
Get your horns up with me on Spaced Out Radio. This is Ron Bumblefoot Thal. Come tune in to SOR, where you can hear me rock out with Little Brother Is Watching, the official theme song of Spaced Out Radio. And then come on over to bumblefoot.com, where you can find out about my tour schedule, my music, and everything else. Bumblefoot.com keeps you up to date on what I'm doing and the best way to stay in touch with my music and music camps. Sign up for my newsletter at bumblefoot.com, and remember, Little Brother Is Watching.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
At spacedoutradio.com, we have a little bit of everything for you to stay up late. So while you're there, check out our SOR Newswire, where our team brings you stories of the weird and strange to the WTF from around the globe. News on Bigfoot, UFOs, paranormal, Darwinian-type crime tales. It's the stories that the mainstream media usually won't touch. Well, we got them all on the SOR Newswire, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
Come hang out with me, Little Richie G, as I take over the airwaves on Spaced Out Saturdays. This is Rich Giordano, and I'm going to bring you the most fun on the radio you can have with your clothes on. We're going to get to the heart of the subjects, from UFOs to what's going on in the paranormal and everything in between. So come join me at spacedoutradio.com, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, for the fastest 3 hours of your week.
The SOR Vault is open for business, and do we have some cool swag for you to pick up? All you have to do is head over to our website and click on the SOR Vault. You have a variety of cool logos to choose from, and put them on anything you want. T-shirts, hoodies, hats, coffee mugs, you name it, we can get it to you. So do your shopping by supporting the store you love. Get your Spaced Out Radio swag at the SOR Vault today.
We all know on Spaced Out Radio we love a good beard and mustache, so why not take care of your facial hair with Mighty Moose Beard Oil? Made in Canada, we're taking care of beards and stashes around the world. We use 100% natural ingredients with our oils and balms to make your whiskers feel silky smooth. Use promo code SOR2019 at MightyMooseBeard.com today.
Looking for something new to push your limits? Look Beyond the Spectrum, a new docu-series featuring some of the best researchers in the world when it comes to everything from UFOs, government cover-ups, and strange humanoids. Truth seekers Stephen Bassett, Jeff Meldrum, Jack Kasher, and Stanton Friedman, among others, all chip in to bring their knowledge to you. Beyond the Spectrum can be found on Amazon as well as Tubi TV. Tell us what you think on our Amazon page.
Are you having encounters with the paranormal, supernatural, or ufological that you cannot explain? Look no further than the SOR Sightlines Report, brought to you by the Experiencers Support Association. This is Ryan Stacy, head of the Research Association, TESA. Soon on the Spaced Out Radio website, you'll be able to file your reports and have them researched for you. We are independent and ready to help Spaced Out Radio listeners today.
Hi, this is Amber Beckrud, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, where we store all of the SOR show archives for free. And as an added bonus, every 2 weeks I'm posting brand new content on Cryptid Tales, where I will get into some of the spookier legends and folklore from around the world, and tell the stories that go with them. Find us at youtube.com/spacedoutradio and check out Cryptid Tales today. Drop a comment and let me know what you want to hear. See you there.
For the price of 1 cup of coffee a month, you can become an SOR Space Traveler. The Space Travelers Club is a place where you can interact with other listeners, either live during the show or on our great forum. We want your stories, pictures, comments, and ideas. You'll get live video streams, exclusive content, and be a part of our newsletter. Stay in touch with everything SOR. The Space Travelers Club is just $5 a month at spacedoutradio.com.
Hi there, this is Dave Scott, and I'm bringing you the woo every Monday through Friday on Spaced Out Radio. I'm going all out to bring you the strangest, oddest stories and subjects I could find for your entertainment. Why? Because when we hit peak woo, I know I've done my job. So come tune us in at spacedoutradio.com, 9:06 Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, and together, my friends, we own the night.
Welcome back to Spaced Out Sunday. I'm your host, Everett Thiemer. Thank you for sticking around with us. We welcome back everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates, KDNF AM 1560 in Dangerfield, Texas, KDUN AM 1030 in Reedsport, Oregon, KZFX 93.7 FM in Ridgecrest, California, WQEE 99.1 FM in Noonan, Georgia, and UPRN 107.7 FM in New Orleans. For our digital listeners, we are on Kingdom of Nye Radio and Revolution Radio. And don't forget, you can check out our archives for free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to some Bumblefoot, shopping at the Spaced Out Radio Vault, where you can get a lovely Team Stump coffee mug, checking out Dave's weekly blog, and so much more. We are talking with Austin Maynard, and we're talking about, well, we're kind of going all over. We're talking a little bit about history right now, but we're going to get into some ITC stuff here pretty soon and some of his experiments and experimentation. But Austin, before we shift gears to that, I wanted to ask you, during the fall months as Halloween rolls up, people are so focused on kind of the scare factor of going and investigating and, you know, collecting, compiling evidence. But, you know, that passed, and now we're kind of rolling into the holiday season here. We're in the thick of the holiday season. Do you think the responses kind of change as the season changes? Are they a bit more gentle, positive now compared to maybe the week or two prior to Halloween?
I mean, part of me wants to say yes, because I feel like if they were, you know, humans before, if they had a life beforehand, they might have celebrated these holidays. So maybe it's the same way over there. But then on the other hand, you know, you get into the whole, you know, fourth dimensional thing too, where it's, you know, time and space is irrelevant, or you even get into, I mean, do they even actually, because time and space is irrelevant, do they even know that it's Christmas or whatever? I mean, it's hard to say, you know, it's just, I mean, you can go so many different ways with it, and I don't think we would know.
Yeah, I guess we end up making some assumptions, but that is an interesting concept, and it's a little bit deep, what you mentioned there, because so many of these investigations, they seem to oftentimes a response or some evidence will be attributed to the entity maybe knowing what's going on or knowing about some event that's happened recently, but yet that almost doesn't make sense if time is irrelevant to them. I mean, I don't know if they would be, you know, stuck in the time that they passed on in, or would they modernize and be aware of what's going on in the present time, the present time.
And that's yeah. I mean, it gets to the point where, I mean, you wonder, because if time and space is irrelevant, do they pay attention to it? Or can they see time, you know, laid out almost, because they're in another dimension and they can just kind of go wherever. And that's where I'm trying to figure out, because then it's talking about, like, I mean, it'll get into, like, time, you know, like having future ghosts come back.
That's the first thing that popped into my head.
Yeah. I mean, and that's where it's like, man, how can we even start to begin to consider these things? Like, how would we even start to do research on that stuff? Because, I mean, right now, one, we don't have the current understanding. Two, we don't have the technology to even how would we even get to that point where we'd ever understand that? Until we die, right? I mean, it's hard, man.
Yeah, I'd like to know the answer before that.
Yeah, well, I don't know if we'll ever find it in our lifetimes. I just don't think we have the capabilities. Whether that's you know, I think there's aspects of, like, the Native Americans, you know, when they were in tune with Earth, you know, the Aztecs, the Mayans, you know, all those ancient civilizations. They never had technology. They believed what they believed for a reason. I mean, yes, some of it obviously might have been a little far-fetched, but there was some basis. There's obviously some reason that they believed that. And, you know, like they think about the different, you know, the rituals, you know, the Native Americans had, you know, rain dances and different things like that. The African tribes believed in the, like the Zulus and the, you know, different things. And it's like, they obviously had some kind of understanding of the forces of nature, at least. And they believed very much in the spiritual world. And because as time went on, we got less and less in tune with nature and the actual world that we live in, the universe we live in. And we've become more and more in tune with our technology. And it's like we've completely eliminated that part of our minds. And so now paranormal experiences, it's all perception. It's all based on what the person wants to see, what they want to believe, and that's currently all it can be.
Well, what do you think then of the importance of people's personal experiences?
I think I mean, and that's another thing that obviously goes into it, you know. It's hard because, you know, everybody can say whatever, but because the paranormal field has blown up the way it has, you can't trust anything anybody says anymore. People make all kinds of claims, and very, very few of them are true or legitimate. And I mean, and even then, who's to say what is true when it comes to this? You know what I mean? It's just so deep, and, you know, we can't sit there and say that somebody's house is haunted. Because what does that mean? Like, is it a ghost? Is it a dead person? And then is it an interdimensional being? Is it this? Is it that? And, man, when I get thinking like this, man, it just goes and goes and goes.
It's kind of a tough balancing act because there are so many people out there who I don't want to say that they believe the personal experience is more important than what the evidence may suggest or the tools collect. But then there's that whole other side that says the personal experience is not at all important. It's only what my EMF detector or my K2 meter or, you know, whatever device I've grabbed and decided I'm going to use tells me. That's what's important.
I think it all comes down to what is the reason you're in the field. I mean, are you in the field to try to advance, to do research, or are you in the field to, you know, get some kind of comfort in knowing that it's life after death, or is it because you want to help people? Is it because you just want to go out and have the thrills? I mean, I think a lot of it falls back to your intentions and your motive.
Right.
Because really, at the end of the day, whatever you want your investigation to be, it might just happen that way. There's that device, and I mean, I guess we can get into it, or I'll just mention this. You know, there's a device called the witching machine or the intentionator. It's a radionics device, and the whole thing is like using your energy and your intentions, and you touch this copper plate, and it converts that energy from your intentions, because everything, when you think about it, everything is vibrations, everything is vibrational energy, it's frequencies, it's all some form of frequency. And when you put your intentions into that, it converts that into electromagnetic energy. And then apparently they've done some tests where on like bugs and things where they were able to increase the reproduction rate, or decrease the civil, between the bug's death rate, it was astounding, but again, it still has no scientific basis, and it falls back into that, goes back into the unknown questions. It's always going to come back to that.
I don't mean to sound insensitive, but if this is a wishing machine and they're using insects, how do they know what the intentions of the insect are?
Well, I know that in those studies, they did it on beetles that were known to have these natural habits, that they were known to only reproduce during this time, or only, when they, when they're trying to fight over a mate. There's different habits that these bugs have, just like all living organisms, really. And the intentionator, the wishing machine, was really all they were trying to do was see if it was able to change those habits in any way. And because it's, it falls into this category of is it really doing them harm? Because we haven't seen enough evidence that a paranormal or a metaphysical force can physically harm somebody. And if it doesn't work, then nothing happens. And as a scientist, I would not expect that to happen, right? You wouldn't imagine that your thoughts could be put into some form of energy. But we can get insensitive about it, but the research needed to be done, and they weren't necessarily even, they didn't have the intentions of harming the insects or anything like that. It was more or less, can they change the natural habits just for a brief time, even with this intentionator? Because if that's the case, then the possibilities with this thing are endless.
Have they experimented with it or tested it with people? I haven't found anything on it. I think, outside of the insects, I think it just kind of fell off. Obviously it's a radionics device. It's, it's getting into the quantum side of things, and it's really not something that every scientist in the world wants to, dive into. I believe that maybe there might be people that own one with bad intentions. And I don't know how anybody can control that, but again, it's we don't even know if it would work. And this is just all reports from back in whenever they originally invented it. That's just kind of what I've read on the device. And it just is interesting because, it kind of adds a whole new avenue into the whole field of research. The ability to convert your thoughts, your emotions, your intentions into a readable energy force or something that is detectable or measured. And that's one of the first steps, I think, into getting into the understanding. I'm wondering how this is different than from, well, I guess if it's transmitting your thoughts as some form of electric energy, it sounds a lot like an EKG being able to, or one of those medical things that can read your brain waves and monitor and show the change of your thoughts.
Oh, see, and that's something that I mean, it's a fine line. Like, should we explore it because we don't know the repercussions, or, I mean, should we explore it because obviously the possibilities are endless? I know that. Have you ever heard of the Stargate Project?
Yes.
Back in the 90s, the psychic soldiers, the experimentation, the whole staring at the goats and canaries to try to get them to react, without you physically doing anything. I mean, all those testings were, when you think about the Stargate Project, that was a military project. They had to have the top scientists, I would assume, trying to study this stuff. And the funny thing, I was telling you a guy while we were on break, I told you about a guy by the name of Kevin Baird, right?
Yes.
Kevin Baird, he invented this device called the New Companion. And it actually, somehow, some way, he picks up the static bursts in the AM frequencies that that he's found from, he was a psychic soldier. He was part of the Stargate program. He even has pictures of him in uniform in this place. And this device, the New Companion, man, it literally measures those static bursts of electromagnetic, and it measures those and it relates those to emotions and the atmosphere, the tension in the air, kind of stuff like that. It will measure the environment as a base. And then every time something happens in the room, like if you and your significant other have a fight or an argument, it will pick up on the differences in the atmosphere based on the energy that we are emitting. And then it actually, this thing is unbelievable, man. It's supposed to be he wants to use it as a medical device that could be used in prisons and solitary confinement to keep people from going insane. This device literally, it has hundreds and hundreds of different phrases, words, and it uses it detects these values based on what it's reading in the atmosphere. And then a specific set of values, like a PIN code, have to be done in sequence in order for any word or phrase to come up. But like a child, it will repeat something and try to get the reaction out of people. And it measures that. And that's all from our frequencies that we're giving off, apparently.
But how does it filter out maybe what you're giving off or I'm giving off versus a random static burst from somebody in the next room using a microwave or there can be a variety of different causes of static. How does it filter those apart?
It actually, the way it works, it's almost a very, very, very basic form of AI. It looks at the tendencies. It doesn't just, react right when you turn it on. Like, you have to let this thing sit for days and let it learns. That's what I meant, like, when I say, it's like a child that'll ask why, and see if that gets a reaction or see what kind of reaction it gets, and it measures that. And then it bases its next reaction, like the next time it senses that, it will go based on what it sensed before. It's just it's unbelievable, and it's hard to grasp as a concept even. But the fact that this thing is able to learn, it doesn't, that's where it gets, those little things like, somebody using the microwave or a random static energy burst, it's able to see that those are not part of the tendencies, part of the normal tendencies, I guess, So it's smart enough to separate that or to ignore it and know that it's not something that happens regularly, so it's not important.
It's a little bit frightening thinking that AI is now, worming its way
limited
into the ghost and spirit fields too. I mean, AI is, and we won't go off topic with this, but AI is just popping up everywhere.
Well, this is more, I mean, this is a very, very limited and very basic form of AI because it's just it has no more capabilities than what Kevin puts into it. And all it does is literally just, it reacts to the environment. And it's not necessarily really AI because it doesn't develop a personality. It does give the appearance of having characteristics of whatever it's around. Like the whole idea that he has, because he's a psychic soldier, he wanted to he's given a new companion to somebody in a coma, have it sit next to that person in a coma. And the whole idea is maybe that person in the coma can use the new companion to communicate to their loved ones. Or, maybe they can say, like, if it sits there next to the person, is that device able to make that metaphysical connection with that person? And then that's almost like a medium between the person in the coma who's unable to speak and the people that are wanting to make sure, know if they're okay, that are worried about them. And he sees it that could be a sense of comfort for a lot of people, especially those families that are dealing with a tragic situation and, people that have been in a coma for 6, 7, 8 months even, anything that can give them some kind of hope. And, this device, I mean, it's not right for everybody, obviously. It's not, I mean, it's just one thing that is possibly there. And it's still in the development stages. I have one that I've actually given to a psychic medium that I work very close with because I felt like, and I mean, I'm not going to lie, man, this woman has made an unreal connection with this thing to the point where this thing, her girlfriend came home one night and, she was tired and was really hungry, hadn't eaten all day. And the first thing this device says when she sits down is, take a break, eat. And it's becoming, and then I know it could be coincidence, but when it comes to be a series of coincidences that happen so frequently and are so relevant, it makes you wonder. If we get into that,
is there a place where our listeners can maybe see this, see a video or a picture of it, or see it in action somewhere?
Yeah, I mean, he has a website. It's newcompanion.com or, newcompanion.com. It's NU Companion. It's all one word.
That is interesting. What's the device called again?
It's called the New Companion. It's just NU Companion, all one word. And I mean, the one that he has currently is the one called Neo. It's NEO. And that's the one I currently have. It's a wooden box, a triangle. It has 27 light sensors around in the ring in the center, and a LED readout at the bottom that tells you, what the values being detected are, and the lights in the center tell you what values are being detected. And it's like when you turn this thing on, it does its base reading and assigns values to the verse that it's picking up.
Okay, Austin, I'm going to get you to hold on for 1 second. We're going to step out for, our third break. And when we come back, we're going to get into some of your research and some of the work and experiments that you've designed and talk a little bit about that, because I know that is a big part of what you love. So we will be right back on Spaced Out Sundays.
Hey, space travelers, this is John Resig, founder of the CHIVE and CHIVE Charities. If you know anything about our website, you know we like to do things a little differently. We're not some faceless organization collecting money for a nebulous cause. Our donor dollars go directly toward life-improving items. Then we give those items directly to an underdog who needs it most. To become a donor with Spaced Out Radio's official charity, CHIVE Charities, just go to chivecharities.org/donate.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know little brother is watching.
We're adding to the entertainment online for Spaced Out Radio. I'm Amber Beckrud, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out Cryptid Tales, where I will take you on a journey into some of the strangest legends and lore from around the world, relaying the stories to you of the strange creatures and experiences that people have had throughout time. You can find Cryptid Tales at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. And while you're there, don't forget to check out our free archives and leave a comment. See you there.
Every night on Spaced Out Radio, we have places for you to hang out. Hi, this is Carl. Join our SOR Space Travelers group on Facebook for live chat. On Twitter, using hashtag Spaced Out Radio, you can also join us in our Spreaker chat room. Check us out on Instagram at Dave Scott SOR. All of our archives are free on YouTube at Spaced Out Radio. By the way, I'll be watching you at your window until you do. Bye!
Heading to Vancouver and looking for some great nightlife? The Moose Vancouver is the place to be. Catch a game on one of the big screens, or just come rock out to your favorite 80s and 90s hair bands. Great food starting at $6.95. The Moose Vancouver is open until 2 a.m. nightly. It's easy to find near the corner of Nelson and Granville. The Moose Vancouver is the official rocking bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Hey everybody, the SOR Space Travelers is open. For just $5 a month, you can hang out with Dave and our crew privately in our members-only section. With your signing, you'll receive newsletters on what's going on with Spaced Out Radio. You'll have direct contact with the host during the show in our chat, live streaming videos, and a great forum for your posts and more. Become a space traveler now at spacedoutradio.com. Hey everybody, the SOR Space Travelers is open. For just $5 a month, you can hang out with Dave and our crew privately in our members-only section. With your signing, you'll receive newsletters on what's going on with Spaced Out Radio. You'll have direct contact with the host during the show in our chat, live streaming videos, and a great forum for your posts and more. Become a space traveler now at spacedoutradio.com.
Hi there, this is Geraldine Orozco from San Francisco's Bay Area Meditation. I invite you to join me the first Tuesday of every month with Dave Scott for Spaced Out Radio's The Spiritual You. In this fast-paced world we live in, it's time for you to take some time for you. We'll cover every possible subject, from powerful meditation to healing techniques to your own intuition and spirituality. So come join us for The Spiritual You.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
Move over, brother, and let me own Saturday night.
This is Rich Giordano, and I'm inviting you to tune on in to Spaced Out Saturdays starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, 12 a.m. Eastern, where I'm going to bust open the lids on everything paranormal. Why? Because we want answers, and I'm the guy who's going to deliver those answers to you. Join the chat rooms, and we'll see you this Saturday. Just be there. No, really.
Looking for the stories of the strange and weird that you will find hard to find anywhere else? Check out the SOR Newswire on our website. Our writers, led by Captain Shirk, are scouring the world for the oddest and most bizarre stories we can find. Everything from weird crime to suspenseful and paranormal. We're working hard for you to bring you the most intriguing news of your day. Check out the SOR Newswire at spacedoutradio.com today.
And we're back to Spaced Out Sundays. I'm your host, Everett Thiemer. Thank you for spending your evening with us. Don't forget, if you've missed any part of the show, you can check out our archives for free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to some Bumblefoot, shopping in that fantastic SOR vault, joining the Space Travelers Club, and so much more. Tonight, we're talking to Austin Maynard, and he is probably best termed an experimentalist in paranormal equipment. And we've talked a bit about history and the importance of history and some of the locations that he's investigated, but I want to start getting into some of the technology and some of the experiments and things that he's doing, because we spend a lot of time talking about equipment and technology, but without guys like Austin, we don't really know if any of it's even worth pennies, if it works, if it's valid, if there's a reason to even use it. And Austin, I want to thank you for coming in on short notice on Spaced Out Sundays here, and I want to dig in a little bit to your ITC work and your experimentations.
Oh man, once again, man, I appreciate you giving me the opportunity. I really don't get many opportunities like this.
Now, one of the things that you primarily focus on ITC devices, right? Or do you work on or experiment with all kinds of different devices?
I experiment with whatever I can think of, really. It doesn't it doesn't even have to be a device. Like I mean, there's simple stuff that I've figured out. Like, everybody uses REM pods, right? Everybody knows what a REM pod is. Now, but most people don't know, if you were to take a shielded auxiliary cable, a 3.5 millimeter auxiliary cable, you get alligator clips at the end of them. You connect them together, making an alligator clips on each side. I think you can even buy them like that. You just connect those to the antennas, and literally it becomes you're connecting the two REM pods. It just becomes a bigger field. And, you put an EM pump in the middle, you connect a circle of them, you put an EM pump in the middle, it just intensifies that field. And I mean, you think, I could cover a room with REM pods, and I don't see anybody else doing that. Why?
When did REM pods really become a thing in the paranormal community, and what was the research behind them?
Really, I mean, REM pods, I don't even know when they even came out, because to me, it's one of the more basic. It's really a junior theremin kit, which is a proximity sensor, meaning if something gets close, it goes off. And that's all it's really doing, is just putting off an electromagnetic field around the antenna and around the little device. And if something outside of that if something interrupts that field, then it will alarm. And as it gets closer, then it alarms louder. So, I mean, the whole concept is, I've had the REM pods go off in random places where there's no electricity, no anything. Abandoned and left to nature kind of stuff. And I've had REM pods go off. So, I mean, but the REM pod is just such a little basic theory, and it's a basic device. but it's a simple concept, you know, and people believe that it works. And but I just don't like the basic of it, you know. I want to expand the ability.
The concept is that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but basically it'll put out a relatively small field, and if some sort of electrical interference mixes or messes with that field, it goes off, and that indicates that there may be something there?
I mean, that's kind of the general perception, yes. In my mind, I mean, when you get into it, as living beings, as any kind of living organism, you're giving off some kind of frequency, some kind of electromagnetic frequency. And so the whole idea is that if the spirit is made of electromagnetic energy or uses electromagnetic energy, because this is all, again, it's all just assumptions, then that spirit could use that electromagnetic energy as a disturbance in it, in a sense, you know?
But if it's too close to some electrical device, couldn't that set it off? Or, you know, if you put it in your living room and maybe your refrigerator backs up to the same wall, or literally any electronic device, couldn't that create enough of a disturbance in the electrical field that could set it off?
Yes, I mean, it absolutely could. And that's where it gets into, I mean, you got to just take it with a grain of salt, or you got to do everything that you can to make sure that there is no electromagnetic energy devices, like anything that is using electrical current. Like if you put it on a tripod in the middle of the floor where everything else is around, you got to try to take as many preventative measures as you can. And, you know, my father actually is an electrical engineer. He has a college degree for electrical engineering. He's been the director of utilities for many different areas. And he told me specifically, you know, there's no such thing as standing EMF, like just where EMF is just in the middle of nowhere. It's not something that should happen, because electricity, electric current, some form of electricity is causing an electromagnetic field. That's what causes the electromagnetic field. And so that's what makes it interesting. But again, yeah, a lot of people don't consider that. They don't take those measures to debunk it. And again, that's why it's a basic, as I put it, a basic device, because it is what it is. You get what you get with it.
You mentioned EM pumps, and the idea behind those is that they pump out sort of an electromagnetic field, and spirits are supposed to be able to use this energy to help manifest themselves.
That is the theory, really. It's amongst the general population in the field. They believe that spirits are able to harness this energy the same way that they would drain a battery or, you know, use a person's energy. And so that's how most people use them. The only time I use them is when I'm trying to supercharge the REM pods. But, you know, I don't see any other benefit than that. I haven't seen anything in my experiences that has shown me that spirits are able to use an EM pump. Usually I just end up wasting a battery. I'll get activity regardless of if I use it or not. And plus, you keep it in one place, you're just limiting it to that space.
What kind of frequencies do these devices give off?
Just electromagnetic. Like there's a specific, you know, it's literally just along the electromagnetic field frequencies. Frequencies literally make up everything in the universe. Like everything, you could start getting into string theory and all that too. But but you know, when you think about that stuff, the whole idea is, you know, these little devices, these beeps and buzzes, you know, they are telling you that that's a dead person, or that they're telling you that that's a spirit. And when you look at it from the scientific aspect, there's so many other things that it could be. And it's hard to use that as a determination for paranormal activity in my mind. But, you know, it's to each their own. Everybody has their own reason.
Well, I tend to question those devices a bit, because it seems to me that if a spirit is going to draw energy, and we have so many accounts of them draining batteries and things like that, the truth is, if a spirit is looking for electromagnetic energy, unless your house is perfectly wired and perfectly grounded, isn't there a little bit of electromagnetic energy being basically given off by every single outlet in a room? I mean, it's not a ton, but it's not like we're free of electromagnetic energy in our environments.
Oh, no, like the Earth itself has natural electromagnetic energy. There's always that, people use the tri-field meters a lot, and they always try to go around and get the base readings of the area, because a lot of it is the ground. There's certain areas in the world, certain areas across the country that have higher EMF than others. And that's getting into like the ley lines and the geographic locations. But, they also talk about like with the, when they talk about the extraterrestrial side of things, that there's landmarks at all of the different points on the magnetic spectrum, around the globe, and they're all connected together. And, I kind of think it's similar to that, where there's, you could even get into like where the higher natural EMF from the Earth, there might be more activity. And it ties into that. But you also question, yes, like if you are in a house, any random house, if there's an outlet in each room, like you always have to consider that. You can't just, if it's there, you have to assume that that's what it is, because otherwise then you're wanting it too much. And that's not how investigating works.
Has anybody, and I'm sure they probably have, but what about the idea of investigating a location with the power off, and then leaving the power off and investigating a location with the EM pumps kind of flooding the location?
And when you say turning the power off, you mean like going to the circuit breaker and literally shutting everything off? Or are you talking about like actually like cutting off the electricity to the house?
Well, you know what? You kind of bring up a good point, because so many people think that when you turn off that master breaker in your circuit box or your breaker box, all the electricity is gone from your house. But that's not really true, because you still have the power coming into the home or location, don't you?
Yeah, it's still there at the access point. It's just, there's just that wall that's keeping it from spreading everywhere else. But the energy, the electrical energy is still right there, like centered right there. You may not have as much of it in like for areas away from it. The further away you get, it would be weaker, but yeah, it's still there. You would have to literally cut the supply cable to cut it off. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. A lot of people don't even consider that, but it is true. Yeah.
Now, you mentioned going around and getting baseline readings with an EMF meter. And, that sounds like a valid thing to do. That sounds like it's a credible thing to do. But I have to ask you this, because you experiment so much with electrical devices and things like that. You can go around during the day and get your baseline readings and maybe even a couple times over the course of a day. But at my house, just because it's become late or dark, people assume that maybe the electrical usage or things like that sort of dies down. But overnight, I have all kinds of electric appliances and things that are doing their thing. Water softeners regenerate typically at night. People have them set to do that at night. My computers typically are left on and probably update overnight. There's always some sort of activity going on, even if we're not aware of it. Ice makers make ice at night. How can you get a baseline in one or two trips through a house without monitoring it and getting like a baseline reading for a 24 or 48 hour period?
Well, I do want to clarify. I do not use EMF meters. I just can't use them anymore. What I was talking about was like when you go around with a tri-field meter and you're actually measuring the baseline natural EMF coming out of the earth. You know, when you walk around anywhere, you could walk around a field in a forest and you'll get that little, like just a little reading on it. It's very weak. It only goes up to the first little notch, but you can see it. It's there. That's a baseline reading. And I think the tri-field meters, I know they're hard. I know they're getting harder to find, like the good, you know, the ones with the pointer on it. But, you know, that I think ties into it in a sense. I mean, you would want to see what the geographic location is like. You want to get into like, you know, is it on a ley line? Is it near a lot of seismic activity, or is there a lot of high magnetism in the area, like where, you know, like the Bermuda Triangle? I mean, that has incredibly high EMF over in that area. And so, but I mean, it's not the only location that is like that. And each area varies across the world. And I just think it's something that people should consider. But yeah, I mean, I agree with you 100%, man. Like you would have to literally set up sensors, and you'd have to be able to measure every area of your house for a week straight, because it's not even just a couple of days. Like, what if it rains one day but it's sunny the other 2 days? You know, does the moisture in the atmosphere, the moisture that builds up in the house from the atmosphere, does that affect the electrical current? Does that affect the static in the atmosphere? Does the cold weather, when it's drier, change? You know, is it different from the summer when the air is humid? I mean, it's just, there's so many things that tie into all this.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. Can I ask you, have you experimented at all or looked at the laser grids?
Yeah, I actually have. I have a box, a ghost box with 2 on it. I actually have 2 ghost boxes with, one has 1 laser grid on it and the other one has 2.
What do you think of these?
I think I have ideas for them. I've had ideas for them. I think they're okay. I mean, they're useful. I mean, I always like to, I mean, I don't ever see any harm in setting one up in a big room and just leaving it there. And if you got a static camera on it, you know, it's always worth it. You know, you never know. I've had people catch things in a laser grid on a static camera. But I think there's so many different possibilities with lasers, because, you know, they have those laser motion tripwires. You know, you find they had those little spy gear laser tripwires that you set up in the doorway, and anytime something broke the beam, it would alarm. So now what if we were able to convert that into a laser grid? And anytime, and this is something Jay, man, this is something me and him have been working on kind of actually. Well, he's been working on it more than I have, but you know, basically I'm thinking of like trying to do a proximity, like almost like a trip alarm anytime one of the lasers on the laser grid gets broken. And his whole thing is like, when that laser gets broken, it shines a UV flashlight right on the laser grid. And that way, if something breaks it, you see that something broke it because that flashlight was triggered. But he uses UV because it's better on camera and it doesn't light up the room. And I mean, you see where I get it, man. It's like, I get my visions, like the possibilities I see with each little device are just so endless. And that's where my experimentation is really, I just always see multiple uses for every device.
Well, in the last hour, we're going to focus quite a bit on some of your experiments and things that you've worked on. Talking about the UV light right away brought to mind the full spectrum camera. And, as we've watched primarily the ghost hunting shows on TV, they've gone from primitive night vision to better night vision to FLIR cameras to full spectrum camera, and everything they've always caught is let's face it, questionable. What do you think of the different camera systems that they're using, and are there ways they're using them wrong, or is there a new development coming up that's going to kind of change the parameters?
Well, I should start off by saying, like, there's multiple kinds of full spectrum cameras. There's the ones that people just go in, they'll remove the lens, the IR filter from it, and put it back in, and then it's always full spectrum, and you don't have any other option. But then there's the true full spectrum cameras that literally are built to pick up every wavelength of light. And those are the ones that I think are really legitimate. The other ones, I think you're just removing the IR filter, and so you can see at night. And that's great. But, with the full spectrum, the true full spectrum cameras, I think those would be more useful, because that's when you're literally visually seeing all the spectrums of light. And that's where we want to look, but very few people realize that that's what the case is. And there's actually a guy I work with, his name is Joel Myers, Ghost Site. He does the NICAM system, and he literally has taken apart so many different cameras and, done so much hours and hours of reading and research on different types of cameras, the sensors, the lenses, everything. And this guy knows more about cameras than I would ever want to know. But he's developed that full spectrum camera, the true full spectrum cameras, in 4K even, and then there's, you could get into the specialty type of cameras like the thermals, and the SLSs are big now, which I think are cool, but they're not really telling us anything, because they map out anything that's the height and shape of anything. You could point it at a water heater downstairs and it'll map out anything. But obviously it's it's the user's discretion. But I think that it's all limiting. It's still just a camera at the end of the day. See, I'm trying to get into the like LIDAR, like 3D imaging, and like constantly mapping, because people use LIDAR to like completely, basically they'll fly over a forest to find an ancient city using LIDAR, and it basically just removes the trees and just shows what's on the surface underground. Well, if we were able to convert that into an imaging system, and you literally could walk around with a LIDAR camera or something, you set it up as a camera, and it just constantly, in intervals, it maps it maps the surrounding environment, because it's an imaging, and it'll show up on a screen, and you could even put that screen remote, back at your base camp, and have the camera up there, and every 5 minutes, every whatever. I'm trying to see if it can be done like in 1 minute or 30-second intervals, but that seems a stretch right now.
Well,
but
Austin, I'm going to get you to hold that thought, because we're going to step out for another break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about LIDAR and SLS, because you've raised several questions in my head. We'll be right back on Spaced Out Sundays.
Hi there, this is Dave Scott, and I'm bringing you the Woo every Monday through Friday on Spaced Out Radio. I'm going all out to bring you the strangest, oddest stories and subjects I could find for your entertainment. Why? Because when we hit peak Woo, I know I've done my job. So come tune us in at spacedoutradio.com, 9:06 Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, and together, my friends, we own the night.
Find your escape where time has no limits. It's about living today and cherishing the heritage of yesterday. A spirit of adventure for what is new, with the nostalgia of the past. Your timepiece is a reflection of who you are. Life surrounded by beauty from the world around us to the soul within. EscapeWatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
John Resig here, founder of CHIVE Charities. And just like you, we have a penchant for the uncommon, the overlooked, and the off-the-cuff. CHIVE Charities operates a bit differently than most organizations. We listen to our recipients to find out exactly what they need, and then we give it to them. We provide people with rare medical conditions, veterans, and first responders with grant items that will make a direct impact on that person's life. We don't just forget about our recipients when the van or the wheelchair has been delivered, though. Our recipients are part of our CHIVE Charities family for life. By becoming a donor with us, you could be a part of that family too. And our listeners of Spaced Out Radio know that thinking differently can be a very good thing. To get to know some of our recipients and to support Spaced Out Radio's official charity, head over to chivecharities.org and start making a real difference today.
If you're heading to Vancouver, make sure you stop by the official bar of Spaced Out Radio, the Moose Vancouver. It's the place to party in YVR. At the corner of Nelson and Granville, the Moose Vancouver is always up to speed with a kitchen staff that serves great food. All food on the menu, $6.95 to $8.95. There's a reason the Moose Vancouver is recognized as one of the hottest spots on the West Coast. Get your horns up for the Moose Vancouver.
Come hang out with Spaced Out Radio, where we own the night. This is Carl. You can follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, and during the show, use the hashtag Spaced Out Radio to chat with us live. On Instagram, at Dave Scott SOR. On Facebook, give our page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. SOR archives are free on YouTube at Spaced Out Radio. Come join us, or I will come join you. See you at your window.
The SOR Vault is open for business, and do we have some cool swag for you to pick up? All you have to do is head over to our website and click on the SOR Vault. You have a variety of cool logos to choose from, and put them on anything you want. T-shirts, hoodies, hats, coffee mugs, you name it, we can get it to you. So do your shopping by supporting the store you love. Get your Spaced Out Radio swag at the SOR Vault today.
Are you having encounters with the paranormal, supernatural, or ufological that you cannot explain? Look no further than the SOR Sightlines Report, brought to you by the Experiencers Support Association. This is Ryan Stacy, head of the Research Association, TESA. Soon on the Spaced Out Radio website, you'll be able to file your reports and have them researched for you. We are independent and ready to help Spaced Out Radio listeners today.
We all know on Spaced Out Radio we love a good beard and mustache, so why not take care of your facial hair with Mighty Moose Beard Oil? Made in Canada, we're taking care of beards and stashes around the world. We use 100% natural ingredients with our oils and balms to make your whiskers feel silky smooth. Use promo code SOR2019 at MightyMooseBeard.com today.
Get your horns up with me on Spaced Out Radio. This is Ron Bumblefoot Thal. Come tune in to SOR, where you can hear me rock out with Little Brother is Watching, the official theme song of Spaced Out Radio. And then come on over to bumblefoot.com, where you can find out about my tour schedule, my music, and everything else. Bumblefoot.com keeps you up to date on what I'm doing and the best way to stay in touch with my music and music camps. Sign up for my newsletter at bumblefoot.com, and remember, Little Brother is watching.
Hi, this is Amber Beckrud, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, where we store all of the SOR show archives for free. And as an added bonus, every 2 weeks I'm posting brand new content on Cryptid Tales, where I will get into some of the spookier legends and folklore from around the world and tell the stories that go with them. Find us at youtube.com/spacedoutradio and check out Cryptid Tales today. Drop a comment and let me know what you want to hear. See you there.
For the price of 1 cup of coffee a month, you can become an SOR Space Traveler. The Space Travelers Club is a place where you can interact with other listeners, either live during the show or on our great forum. We want your stories, pictures, comments, and ideas. You'll get live video streams, exclusive content, and be a part of our newsletter. Stay in touch with everything SOR. The Space Travelers Club is just $5 a month at spacedoutradio.com.
At spacedoutradio.com, we have a little bit of everything for you to stay up late. So while you're there, check out our SOR Newswire, where our team brings you stories of the weird and strange to the WTF from around the globe. News on Bigfoot, UFOs, paranormal, Darwinian-type crime tales. It's the stories that the mainstream media usually won't touch. Well, we got them all on the SOR Newswire, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Come hang out with me, Little Richie G, as I take over the airwaves on Spaced Out Saturdays. This is Rich Giordano, and I'm going to bring you the most fun on the radio you can have with your clothes on. We're going to get to the heart of the subjects from UFOs to what's going on in the paranormal and everything in between. So come join me at spacedoutradio.com, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, for the fastest 3 hours of your week.
My hands can feel good. I'm free. I'm remembering who I am. My hands can feel good. I'm free. I'm remembering who I am. My hands can feel good. I'm free. I'm remembering who I am.
Welcome back to Spaced Out Sundays. I'm your host, Everett Thiemer. Thank you for spending your evening with us. We welcome back everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates, KDNF, AM 1560 in Dangerfield, Texas, KDUN, AM 1030 in Reedsport, Oregon, KZFX, 93.7 FM in Ridgecrest, California, WQEE, 99.1 FM in Noonan, Georgia, and UPRN, 107.7 FM in New Orleans. For our digital listeners, we are on Kingdom of Nye Radio and Revolution Radio. Don't forget, you can check out our archives at youtube.com/spacedoutradio. Just do us the favor and hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to some Bumblefoot, shopping in the SOR Vault, reading up on the SOR Newswire, and so much more. Before the break, we were talking to Austin Maynard, experimentalist, researcher, all around kind of let's figure out what's going on with this kind of stuff guy. And we were talking right before the break about SLS cameras. Actually, you just briefly mentioned them before you threw LiDAR on the table. And I want to talk about both of these because, you know, SLS cameras, they're not exactly new, but they're relatively new. And yeah, I've seen the footage. I think we all have. And it's interesting. I will say that part of me wants to completely disregard it, but then there's just enough that makes me wonder it. And I'm hoping you can kind of explain the benefits and disadvantages of it to us, because this is essentially the camera image you'll see on a screen where the idea is if something manifests or appears, this will pick it up, and you'll typically see like the stick figure kind of form, correct?
Yeah. I mean, the whole idea of it is brilliant, really, because, I mean, it's literally giving you a visual map. Like, it's allowing you, in theory, to see if something manifests. And, yeah, there have been plenty of captures on SLS cameras that are just astounding because, you know, there's a lot of those ones that you question. And I've noticed that the SLS, like I was saying earlier, you know, it will map out anything that is in the general shape of a human being. And sometimes I've noticed, like, you could point it at a blank wall, and if you're holding it by hand and you move it in the right direction or hold it at the right angle, it'll start mapping out like blotches, colored blotches on the wall, and it'll map figures in those. And to me, I don't know if that's really legitimate because, you know, it seems like it's some kind of malfunction in the camera system almost, or in the mapping system. It's just like it's detecting more than it should. But you know, when I brought LiDAR onto the table, it was because, you know, when you have the actual imaging to back up the SLS being mapping out a figure, I mean, then it's a little more work.
How would that work? LiDAR, I don't know. It's an acronym for big words that I probably can't pronounce, but the general idea is that doesn't it scan sort of in layers, and it can detect things that are not visible to the eye?
Well, essentially, like a LiDAR system is it's a range finding system. Like it sends out beams of light, and it will send data back to the control system that tells it how far it is away from the sensor. And it will literally send out thousands of those beams of light, and it just will map in, like you said, in layers, and it will visually create a 3D image of the environment if you have a 3D system. If you have a 2D, I'm not really sure. I think it just gives you like an image from what it read, it scanned. But the 3D system is amazing because it actually, when you have the right programming, you could even move through the environment virtually from what was mapped in the system. And so when you get into the paranormal aspect of it, I mean, I would think that if you were able to somehow like alter how easily it will bounce back, you know, like what if it doesn't need as much, like why does it need to be physical material? Does it need to be a tangible item in order to make it bounce back? Or can they lower the sensitivity of those beams somehow to where it will bounce back if it bounces off, if it hits anything, whether that's physical or not? And see, I think that the whole idea would be amazing if you were able to set it up as a standing static camera that's just pointed in one direction all night. And that's the same thing with the SLS camera. I feel like if it was not moving, if it was just stationary, then if there was differences, then it would be like, okay. But the SLS is, it's funny because like you have to hold it perfectly level in order for it to work properly. And it even the digital dowsing one made by Bill Chappell, you know, he puts that in the instructions, in the user manual. It says you need to hold it perfectly horizontal, because if you don't, it will not read properly. But, you know, I don't know how many times I've seen investigators, you know, have it in their hand and be holding it up or down and getting these readings. And I can't say anything, obviously, because I'm not the kind of guy that's going to, you know, step up and be like, no, that's false. You know, I don't like to be that guy because I don't know. But, you know, when you have it standing as a system, it seems more valid.
The SLS camera, that's sort of based off of the old, what is it, the Nintendo Kinect platform? Is that
the Xbox Kinect?
Or yeah, I don't play too many video games, so I'm not up on my video game jargon. But okay, so and what that was designed for was essentially so that you could play these video games and interact with them as a player. It would read your movements, whether you were playing a tennis game or boxing. I don't remember all the games that they had available for them, but the general concept was that it would read your movements and allow you to interact with an avatar in the game, right?
Yeah, it just basically would put out an IR laser grid, really, and it would, in a sense, work like that when I said the laser tripwire from the laser grid, it basically works similar in a sense, but it detects when the lasers are broken from your movements, and it will like send that data back and basically integrate that into the game. Yes.
Okay.
And I mean,
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna just keep ranting. I'm sorry.
Well, the reason I bring it up is because when I've seen footage from an SLS camera, there is always the human form type stick figure. You had mentioned people recording blobs or things like that, and I have yet to see that, but I wonder if these cameras are programmed or predisposed to turn almost any kind of shape into a human form, because and I'm sure we've all seen the footage of somebody saying they're being touched on their side, and sure enough, a little stick figure comes next to them and is somewhere in their vicinity, but we've never seen a blob, or we've never seen anything really but stick figures. Is it pre-programmed or predisposed to just pick up random shapes and turn them into a human-like figure?
Well, the blobs, or what I meant was like blotches. Like you'll see when you're like walking around a room with an SLS camera, and your camera is pointed, at the walls and the doorways and things like that. The camera system, the SLS camera system will recognize that that's a wall, and it will obviously give you a 3D image on your sensor from what the lasers are detecting. But on that image, when you look along those walls, and a lot of these it'll just start to detect, it'll show the colors. It'll show like red on the wall or something. It just looks like it's just assigning red to the wall, in a sense. But there are times when it doesn't completely cover the wall in red, and it just is it's a little blob that's about the size of a human on the wall. And then sure enough, a stick figure maps out in that. And it happens so frequently. The SLSs are hard for me. Like I actually spent, $1,200 on one from Digital Dowsing, and had one of the actual SLS cameras that Bill Chappell created. But that was one of the biggest things I saw was, it would just detect things that were just so questionable. Like, you'd stand facing a doorway, and you have walls on either side, and then all of a sudden both sides of the walls, they turn red, and then all of a sudden a stick figure pops up. And it's just like, okay, it happens so frequently. I don't necessarily think that it's, intentionally manipulated like that, but I think because you're trying to make this electronic device do something that it's not meant to do. Like you're essentially modifying this device, and I think it's gonna have those little glitches because it's not doing what it was programmed to do.
Well, what are SLS? What's that?
Just grain of salt kind of stuff,
Well, what are SLS cameras actually picking up? Because they were designed to pick up the interruption of the grid by a human shape, or read your movements through this grid. Except, what did they do to change them to be able to pick up something that's invisible? I mean, even with a lot of the laser grids, people still talk about, well, maybe it'll help validate a shadow figure going through an area. But a shadow figure still, in its own way, seems to have some mass and shape, where oftentimes these things just seem to be picking up nothing, or picking up something where there is nothing, which I understand and I agree that, well, that spirit could be energy. But how did they change the sensors to pick up that energy then?
I honestly, I don't know the real answer. I'm assuming that it was something with regards to like how easily the the IR laser grid is able to detect something, like almost the sensitivity level, to where, like, normally the sensitivity level is it has to hit something with physical mass in order to bounce back. But, you know, there's probably some way where they could lower the, like, it doesn't take that much. Like, you could shoot it through a window where it's like, you know, where it could see, the laser would go right through normally, and it wouldn't show anything where a window would be. But if you were to lower the sensitivity enough, maybe it would pick up the window or something like that. And I'm assuming that's what they're doing, but again, I have no idea.
Will you be experimenting with these anytime soon?
I mean, I have one. One of my teammates, Eric, has one that he built. And I've done a lot of work with them in the past. It's just one of those things that it's hard to experiment with, and the only way I can is if I have somebody that knows how to integrate the SLS into another system, as in like a thermal camera or a LiDAR imaging system. So where something besides just the stick figure on the screen is telling me that there's an entity there, something there, that is a reason for it to be mapping a stick figure. You know, I don't want to just rely on these altered sensors. Like, I want to rely on the sensors plus the thermal, plus the LiDAR, plus the night vision, plus the full spectrum, and compare it all.
You bring up a good point, because I have seen people sort of have a FLIR or full spectrum camera beside their SLS camera. And, you know, what I've noticed is, first of all, I want to believe there's something to the SLS system, because it is interesting how people, whether they say they're being touched or they say they feel like somebody's pulling on something, or, you know, when they say that, you know, and I'm talking on TV, so we have to take that with a grain of salt. But when they say those things, there seems to be a stick figure in the area where you would expect for the experience they're having. And I've seen them side by side with other devices and other cameras, and they never seem to validate each other. It seems like if there's something on the FLIR, there's nothing on the SLS. If there's something on the SLS, there's nothing on the FLIR. And I find that curious, but I also, you know, you have to wonder that, well, maybe it's a different form of energy, or something where it's being picked up by one but not the other, and that doesn't necessarily make it invalid, I guess.
Yeah, and that's where the question of what defines the validity. I mean, what defines, you know, the legitimate evidence versus, I mean, you can get into all that, and obviously there are obvious, like, separations, but I mean, it's hard to say, because, you know, we're assuming that they are able to be picked up by temperature or by this or by that, you know, and sometimes what if they're only able to show up on one frequency at a time, and it's a matter of, can we find the frequency that they're on at the time that they're on? And so that's where it gets, you know, really finicky, and it's all just like what ifs or maybe. And, you know, we can never tell somebody who had an experience. We can't discount anybody's personal experiences. You know, maybe that person was touched, and it was interesting that stick figure was there. But even though we couldn't capture it on the other cameras, that doesn't, like you said, it doesn't mean that it didn't happen, because, again, we can't just assume that they're able to be picked up based on temperature or this or that, you know.
We got about 5 minutes before we have to step out for our last break. And before we do, I want to talk to you for a second about FLIR, infrared cameras, because I don't know how much you've experimented with these, but they've always left some form of bad taste in my mouth, especially after, in the same episode of a particular show, at the beginning, they caught a hot spot, and a particular person declared that it must be a ghost because there was nobody up there. And then about 15 minutes later in the next segment, they caught a cold spot, and they declared, of course, it must be a ghost because there was nobody over there. And how do you balance or how do you reconcile that? I mean, either a ghost is going to show up as a warm or hot spot, or it's going to show up as a cold spot in my mind. Spirits can't be both.
Yeah, I've heard theories that, the hot spots are more of the dark, the evil, the demonic kind of stuff. But in the cold are the actual spirits. But, again, when we get into the demonic stuff, man, I don't believe necessarily that there's as much out there as people say. However, when we get back to the temperature, that it's hard with FLIRs because, they're so sensitive. Like, you could literally, if you had your hand and you were leaning up against the wall, you could go downstairs and be down there 5-10 minutes. You come back up with a FLIR camera, point it right on that spot, it's going to show a handprint stuff. And so that's where it's like you really have to be careful with each and every piece of equipment that you use. And, when you're doing it with its intended purpose, there's always something that you would have to debunk as not being an unusual anomaly. But, you have to be fully aware of everything that's going on, everything that you are doing as an investigator, as well as a human being. And, because the amount of possibilities of contamination for every aspect of the paranormal it's limitless. Like anytime you go into an environment, you are contaminating the atmosphere, one, with your energy, and then two, it's like these recorders that people use nowadays, they got the subsonic hearing or whatever. Well, I guess not subsonic. What do you call it? It's below human hearing regardless. And your body in itself makes noises that you ignore, you don't hear because you just come to ignore them. It's just your brain. And, sometimes I think, people don't consider that kind of stuff. That consider the, when you have a recorder and you have a walkie-talkie or something and you're getting some feedback or you're getting static on your recorder. Well, I wonder if that's because of the radio, the walkie-talkie receiving a message. And like that goes with REM pods too. And you use a walkie in a haunted location and you got REM pods in the building, they will absolutely go off if you press that walkie button. And, that's a big thing. It's everything has to be in the right conditions. And I think everything can be done in the right way. Like even pendulums, you set them up on a tripod with a holder, and then you can even hold the end of it if you feel that you need to put your energy into it. Or, stuff like that. If you do it, you eliminate any possible contamination you put it in a controlled environment. I think anything can be done the right way.
Hey, Austin, we've got about 30 seconds left before we have to step out for our final break. And I have to ask you, before the show, you were talking about maybe you'd come up with an experiment that you could do while we were having this conversation. Have you thought of something yet?
We haven't gotten into the ghost box stuff yet.
We're going
to stuff, man.
We're going to do that in the next segment. And with that, we're talking with Austin Maynard, experimentalist, researcher, inventor of sorts. And we will be right back after this break on Spaced Out Sundays.
Hey everybody, the SOR Space Travelers is open. For just $5 a month, you can hang out with Dave and our crew privately in our members-only section. With your signing, you'll receive newsletters on what's going on with Spaced Out Radio. You'll have direct contact with the host during the show in our chat, live streaming videos, and a great forum for your posts and more. Become a space traveler now at spacedoutradio.com.
You wanted new SOR gear, and now you can have it. The SOR Vault is fully stocked with t-shirts, hats, hoodies, mugs, and everything in between with great logos for you to choose from. So head on over to spacedoutradio.com, click on the SOR Vault, and go shopping. Pricing is quite affordable, and you can look good representing your favorite show. So go to our website and pick up your new SOR wear at the SOR Vault today.
Hey Spaced Out Radio fans, it's John Resig, founder of the CHIVE and CHIVE Charities. We live in a world of mystery and uncertainty, which you guys know better than anyone. Sometimes you just need to be brought back down to earth for a while. One of the best ways to stay grounded is to help out with your fellow earthlings, and there's no more rewarding way to do that than to give through CHIVE Charities. Unlike many organizations, we don't necessarily aim to save the world, cure disease, or change the course of history. Our goal is to make the life of veterans, first responders, and those with rare medical conditions 10% happier. We do this by donating one grant item, ranging from vans to therapy programs to prosthetic limbs, to those who need it most. CHIVE Charities is nothing without our donors, an amazing group of underdogs helping underdogs. To contribute to Spaced Out Radio's official charity, head over to chivecharities.org and become a donor today.
Move over, brother, and let me own Saturday night.
This is Rich Giordano, and I'm inviting you to tune on in to Spaced Out Saturdays starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, 12 a.m. Eastern, where I'm going to bust open the lids on everything paranormal. Why? Because we want answers, and I'm the guy who's going to deliver those answers to you. Join the chat rooms, and we'll see you this Saturday. Just be there. No, really.
Are you addicted to the woo? Good. Me too. This is Dave Scott, and you can woo it up with me every Monday through Friday, starting at 9:06 Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, for 3 hours of great entertainment in the subjects you love. UFOs, ghosts, cryptids, intuition. Yes, we hit it all 5 days a week. Look for us at spacedoutradio.com, where together, my friends, we own the night.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
Heading to Vancouver and looking for some great nightlife? The Moose Vancouver is the place to be. Catch a game on one of the big screens, or just come rock out to your favorite 80s and 90s hair bands. Great food starting at $6.95. The Moose Vancouver is open until 2 a.m. nightly. It's easy to find near the corner of Nelson and Granville. The Moose Vancouver is the official rocking bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Every night on Spaced Out Radio, we have places for you to hang out. Hi, this is Carl. Join our SOR Space Travelers group on Facebook for live chat. On Twitter, using hashtag Spaced Out Radio, you can also join us in our Spreaker chat room. Check us out on Instagram at Dave Scott SOR. All of our archives are free on YouTube at Spaced Out Radio. By the way, I'll be watching you at your window until you do. Bye!
Are you having encounters with the paranormal, supernatural, or ufological that you cannot explain? Look no further than the SOR Sightlines Report, brought to you by the Experiencers Support Association. This is Ryan Stacy, head of the Research Association, TESA. Soon on the Spaced Out Radio website, you'll be able to file your reports and have them researched for you. We are independent and ready to help Spaced Out Radio listeners today.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thaw, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
From the heartlands of Canada to beards around the world, we know how to take care of you. Fill your follicles with the Mighty Moose Beard Oil. All our oils and balms are handmade and 100% natural ingredients because we care about your beard. And hey, use the promo code SOR2019 and get your Mighty Moose beard oil today. You can check us out on our website, mightymoosebeard.com.
We're adding to the entertainment online for Spaced Out Radio. I'm Amber Beckrud, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out Cryptid Tales, where I will take you on a journey into some of the strangest legends and lore from around the world, relaying the stories to you of the strange creatures and experiences that people have had throughout time. You can find Cryptid Tales at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. And while you're there, don't forget to check out our free archives and leave a comment. See you there.
Welcome back to Spaced Out Sundays. I'm your host, Everett Thiemer. Thank you for spending your evening with us. Don't forget, if you've missed any part of the show, you can always check out our archives for free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do us the favor and hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to some Bumblefoot, picking up a t-shirt in the SOR vault, reading up on Gail Shirk's SOR Newswire, or even joining the Space Travelers Club, where you're going to find a whole bunch of fun stuff. Tonight, for the last half hour, we're going to talk ITC, and we've been talking with Austin Maynard. He's with Underground Paranormal Network, and he's a preservationist, a researcher, an experimentalist of sorts, working to show how these different pieces of equipment can be validated, working to improve the reputation of the community. Austin, thanks for sticking around for the full show with us. And I want to talk some ITC with you because we've gone in a whole bunch of different directions, but we haven't really gone down that road yet.
No, we haven't. And that's absolutely one of my biggest passions, not just ITC, but experimentation in general. I just continue to come up with ideas for different devices. I don't know how it happens.
Well, with the ITC devices, and let's talk spirit boxes or ghost boxes specifically, what kind of ideas do you have for them?
Well, I mean, it's gotten to a point where I think it's gotten to a point where I am limited on the capabilities. Like, I've reached the capabilities of our current technology, and I cannot go any further. There's
what's the next step?
I'm still trying to figure that out. That's where I'm starting to, obviously I work with Jay Prather and Katie Stafford, two of my closest friends in the field, and they both just continue to come out with different boxes, different concepts, different sweeps. And I mean, that's one thing that Katie is amazing at, is coming up with experimental devices. He has like the ghost helmet. He has, which is a version of the God helmet, which is very vaguely talked about amongst the community. But the ghost boxes, I think there's so many capabilities, but yet they're very limited because there's only so many different kinds of sweeping, in a sense, that you can do. And the sweeping is just scanning through the radio stations without stopping. And you can do it either digitally or analog. And digitally, you'd have to use a code and different kinds of chips. But the analog is interesting too. You were talking earlier about the old analog, or the old reel-to-reel recorders and that kind of stuff. I fully believe that the 8 millimeter film as well as the old analog recorders, the actual cassette tape. And I fully believe that stuff, it works just as, like, I think it works better than the newer digital stuff. Like when you think about recorders, even, man, like the shielding on modern recorders, like, it just eliminates so much of that background noise. But then with ghost boxes, you can have the radio stations that come through, and those are hard to distinguish between. If you got the frequency, or if you got the scanning speed slow enough, obviously you'll just get radio stations that come through. And the reason I like to work with Jay, he developed the random sweep. It's not just going forward or backwards in a loop, It's literally just jumping all over the spectrum, and he puts like 200 steps in between each radio channel on the FM spectrum, And when you're talking about just random, completely random, where it just jumps all over the place, that in itself eliminates the possibility of a strong radio station coming through 1, 2, 3 channels, because that does happen, and that can be misconstrued as a sentence or a spirit saying something over 4 or 5 whatever sweeps. And so I love that about Jay's devices. He works with he created the direct link device, where it actually uses your body as an antenna, because you have to make physical contact with the jack in order for anything to come through. And that's a cool device. That's a cool concept. And the great thing about Jay's devices that I like so much is that they're Swiss Army knives in a sense. Like, I can connect 5, 6 Jay's boxes together. I could use audio cable splitters, connect 5 of them together, and have 5 tuners going at once as one, just mixing them all together. Like, when you talk about ITC, like, what if you were to start putting 2 different tuners together? Like you have a dual tuner, almost like most people know the dual tuners as the SB11, right? But, William Pimblott, he actually creates an analog dual tuner where he uses a microprocessor or a microcontroller to control where the radio scans to. And, these guys, KD and William Pimblott, man, they are some of the most unbelievable creative-minded people I've ever met. Like, you talked with KD last week, right?
Right. He is a fascinating guy. He has a lot of knowledge and a lot of ideas.
Yeah, and see, me... And I'll even say this on the air, because KD knows if KD listens, he knows I'm saying it. He knows it's true. There have been times where I have given KD a challenge. And to see, when I say that, that's like, oh, whoa, you challenging KD, the mad scientist? Like, you're giving him something that makes him think? And I take a little bit of pride in that, obviously. But, it's amazing that the things that those two are able to make happen. It's one thing to sit here and visualize doing this, right? I can sit here and say, well, what if this did that? But to actually literally put it and actually make it happen, make it a reality, that's like a whole nother mountain to climb. And those guys, William Pimblott, man, I'm telling you.
Well, you had mentioned connecting by cable several ghost boxes together. Is that something you've done yet, or is that something you're going to try?
Oh, I've done it a number of times. There's even experiments where, because like Jay's devices, they all have input and output jacks. Like, they're actually both. They are input and output. And he does them both pre-effects, meaning like it just it will have to go through the echo and reverb board before it comes out of the speaker. And that's where pre-effects, and you can put any audio into that jack, and his boxes will continue to run the tuner inside, but then also add whatever you're putting into it. And so my whole thought was, well, if I were to use an audio cable splitter, I could put, auxiliary cables in the direct link as well as a 2K box, and then, connect them to this box. And then literally all 3 tuners are going at once through the one box. But see, then you add into the whole equation, the way the direct link works, to where you have to make the contact in order for anything to come through. So now you got those 2 tuners rolling while the direct link is waiting for you to put the finger on the jack so that it will get the reception and response. And I've had 5 of these things connected together at once, man. It's like I've had them. There's a video I actually shot with my crew inside the grain elevator that we do a lot of our stuff out here in Bryan. And we literally had 2 direct links, one on each end, and then 3 boxes between the 2 direct links. And we had one person holding the direct link on one side, one person holding the direct link on the other side, and each of them asking their own individual questions. And because the boxes are all loud enough, they can't hear each other. And so we're recording each box to see if any of the responses are relevant to either question that they ask. But you're combining all of these together, all of the energy of each box, the different tuners.
So when you do this, all of the boxes' speakers are going at the same time?
Yes.
Do you get, when you get a response, or are they all broadcasting the same thing? If you get a response, is it coming through all of the speakers, or just one device at a time, or is it random?
Well, you actually bring up another point. Actually, there's 2 different ways you can do it, because the way that I did it, all of the speakers, all of the boxes are different. They have different tuners in each one, but we're just basically adding each tuner into the same speaker. So all of the same tuner, all of the different tuners are coming out the same speakers, and each of those tuners is the random scan. So there's no way that one word or that a response should come out of more than one box. And when you're recording multiple boxes, obviously it's a lot to compare and go through. But, if you are able to video the questions asked or record the questions asked, and then you go through each individual recorder, and the astounding thing would be if 2 of those boxes said the same thing, because they're separate tuners, both going at random, they're just jumping around the spectrum. So really, in theory, it shouldn't happen. But on the other side of that, there's a device a system that Jay built. It's called the intercom system. And what his whole theory was, he's just basically using a surround sound speaker system and putting one tuner and broadcasting it through all 4 satellite speakers. And his theory was, all of the speakers should be saying the same thing, because it's just one tuner going through all 4. But if one of those speakers says something different than the other 3, then that's where it gets to be like, okay, that's interesting, because that should not happen. And that's where the whole experimentation, the ITC aspect of it comes in. We're trying to find those anomalies to where this should not happen. So why is it happening?
Now, when you've had these hooked together and you're running your experiments with them, have you ever had like the same sounding voice come over different machines or different devices with a sentence or a phrase that makes sense and is relevant to your question?
I will say I've never had it happen with 2 of Jay's boxes. However, there was a time. We were at one of my locations called the Auglaize Village Museum, and it's just this big 40-acre property with 28 different historic buildings in it, and it's like a museum in a sense, but it's a village, like set up to be a pioneer village. And we were on one side of the village, like all the way on the other end of the property at the gun range, and we had another part of our crew on the other side at the Pioneer Cemetery. And we're literally, almost a half a mile apart. And myself and my partner Mike were using the Orion ITC talker device, which is built by Katie Holte. It's basically, it just uses the phonemes and the allophones that make up all of our human speech, all the little bits and pieces. And it just is constant randomly sweeping through all of those. Like there's 200 some, and it's just as fast as you can think. It just goes in. It's amazing that they were using a direct link over at the cemetery while we were using this over at the gun range. And we were getting names on the Orion, and we would say, can you say that name? We were videoing this. We were doing this live on Facebook, actually. And everything that was coming through the Orion was also coming through the direct link way across the property. And that's where it starts to become interesting to me, because we're talking about two different types of boxes, two different, like one's using the little bits and pieces of our speech, and one's using actual radio frequencies. So how are they both talking about saying the same name multiple times, talking about the same thing? And you can actually find this on the page. It's just astounding.
The odds of that seem astronomical.
Oh, they are. And it still baffles me.
I don't know what to say with that, because that is, you had mentioned earlier that none of us has the answers, none of us are experts, but when you look at something like that, you have to be open-minded enough to go, that it at least validates the idea that maybe some of this stuff is on the right track.
No, absolutely. And, I even try to throw in there, most people don't even think about this. Like, why are psychic mediums not using ghost boxes or devices? Like, I hand the direct link to one of my close medium friends, Brandy Marie from Detroit Paranormal Expeditions. I will give her the direct link. And when she makes that contact with the direct link, it is a whole nother level of communication than if I were to hold it. And we were at a cemetery one time, at an old infirmary cemetery over here where nearby me. And we were just walking along the unmarked graves, and I kid you not, and I got this all on live video too, and you can find it, for 10 minutes straight, 10 minutes off of this randomly sweeping box. There was one male voice that just consistently, he was talking, same voice, 10 minutes straight. It's almost as if Brandy couldn't even get a question in. And everything that he was saying was like he was telling a story. And if this thing is supposed to be randomly sweeping the stations, how is this one voice coming through so frequently, so many times? And you're talking about 200 steps in between each channel. That's even a higher possibility.
That's kind of tough to deny. That's hard to not be interested in.
Well, when you think about psychic mediums, they themselves are a tool. And why the hell? Sorry, didn't mean to say that. Why the heck are they not taking advantage of that? Because in a sense, if psychic mediums have the ability to connect with these spirits on another level, then why wouldn't they use these devices to validate everything that they're saying, and the teams use them to validate what they're saying? And it's not to validate the medium, it's to validate that you have the ability. It's to validate that you are legitimately picking this up or sensing this with no prior knowledge. And when they make contact, like I think when you hold a box or you hold a device, your energy ties into it. And if you have the ability to interact with the other side more than other people can, like, to me, that just is like, you're just kicking the door wide open.
Yeah, I you know what? We can have an entire another discussion on that, because there is so much to the idea of the psychic connection. And in fact, maybe we will get into that at some point in the future here. But Austin, we're just about out of time and have to kind of wrap this thing up. So can you tell everybody where they can find your work, what you're going to be up to, things like that?
Yeah, I mean, I have multiple pages that I run. The main one is the Underground Paranormal Network. Just remove the, but, the Underground Paranormal Network, the pages underneath all that, Haunted Brian Investigations, Haunted Middle Point School, the Village Paranormal Tours, and Westwood School. Each of them have their own individual pages. And then, of course, my teams, both Creepy Cincinnati Paraforensics and Spectral Ohio Paraforensics, we all work within the same network. We're all our staff. I know it's a lot. I'm trying to condense a lot of it. But, we all work with these boxes. We all do the preservation work. It's all over. If you find one of our pages, you'll find them all.
Hey, Katie, Austin, thank you so much for being here, because this was a lot of fun, and we are definitely going to have you back at some point.
Oh, absolutely. I'd love to do it again.
Thanks. Hold on. I'm going to wrap this thing up and we'll talk. We've got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot THAL rocking in the background. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us into and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. A special thank you to everyone listening in at home, in your cars, at work, and in our chat rooms, and also wherever you may be. Remember, this show is copywritten by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thanks for sharing your evening with us, because together, my friends, we own the night.